My name is Engineer Ibiali, and I'm taking us in this course, Introduction to Oil and Gas Management Refinery. Refinery. Please just go through.
Engineer, man, please talk. We can. You're muted already.
Yeah, I'm talking. I'm saying the video. Is it showing? Okay. Um, Alan, we will not be able to hear the audio properly, so I'll just play through. Um, this is what usually happens in the oil and gas industry. This is seismic signals that are sent, sound waves that are sent to the earth crust during survey. This is a potential area where we're likely to have crude oil deposits or reservoirs. So the sounds are sent, and those sounds are reflected back to the device, and then you have the rig set up. If the information they get is something that is viable, that shows that okay, yeah, we have enough deposit in this location. Okay, so probably in our next class, because of time, some technical we at that time that was in. So I would likely share this again in the next class. So the relation of the reservoir have this kind of rig, pump jack for drilling or for this wellhead where we have the reservoir beneath it. And then we have transmission line that takes this petroleum straight down to the temporary storage and then the refinery. The components of the crude oil, they all have different molecular weight. Take note of what I'm saying. They have different molecular weight. Hence, they can be separated according to their molecular weight when subjected to heat. So this is a distillation column, which is used for the separation into different fractions. This is typically these are separators also. You know, this is just example or an example rather of what happens in the petroleum industry or in the refinery. All right. So good afternoon once again. We'll go straight to the discussion for today. Talking about crude oil refinery, that comes to mind is what is crude oil and what is crude oil refinery? Crude oil, another name for crude oil is black coal. I believe you can see my screen clearly, so please pay attention and follow through. Another name for crude oil is black coal. It's a thick brown. Now, the color varies from brown to green, but it's usually very dark. It depends on the location or the location where we are getting the crude oil from. The crude oil in Nigeria, the color of crude oil from Nigerian terrain may be different from the color of crude oil from Venezuela or from Kuwait or some other country. Okay, all right. It's so the color varies, and it's a flammable liquid which is found in the upper strata of some regions of the earth crust. Those areas are referred to as the reservoir. There are pockets that usually this crude oil filters through. I believe many of us have already gotten the foundation of how crude oil is formed from planting to plantings and plantoplantings. That's microorganisms or very minute microorganisms that are called zooplankton or plantoplankton. That's the animal plankton or the plant plankton. Okay. All right. Now it's a complex mixture and it's basically hydrocarbon. Most of the hydrocarbons in crude oil are alkanes. I know many of us have a good background in chemistry, organic chemistry, so we know the alkenes, and the alkynes. Okay. Now, along with traces of other chemicals or other compounds, it's usually um, laden with other other chemical compounds which are like impurities. An example, a typical example is sulfur. The presence of sulfur or sulfur compounds in crude oil makes determines the quality of the crude oil. So if you have not too much sulfur content in the crude, then you are likely to have um, if you have too much sulfur content here. Okay, that's typically what goes on in the distillation column. The distillation column is the column which is used for the separation of crude oil into its different fractions. The separation basis is on two factors. It's on two factors. Number one, the molecular weight. Number two, their boiling point. What do we mean by this? The difference in their boiling point and difference in their molecular weight will determine which one is separated at certain temperature. As the temperature increases in the distillation column, the ones that are having lower boiling points will be the first to escape. So as it increases, according to that, according to their level, their boiling point, they will be they will be distillating, that they will be escaping, you understand, and they will be trapped or collected at different chambers on the distillation column. So quickly, I said something earlier that the crude oil is basically six components, two different types. We have the sweet crude and the sour crude. The sweet crude is the crude that has less than 0.5 uh, percent of sulfur, and the one that is sour crude is the crude oil that has um, about 2.5% of sulfur. Mhm. Okay, so we have said that the column used in separating crude oil into its components is known as what? Distillation column. Now, crude oil must undergo several separation processes so that its components can be obtained. That's what I just explained. Now, the process of um, transforming it into its different components is called crude oil refinery or refining, okay, which is also one of the processes of distillation or one other name for distillation. Now, this is what I just explained, that according to their boiling point, they will vaporize, okay, and that process is known as fractional distillation. Take note of that, fractional distillation, the process by which crude oil is separated into its various components, like heating the oil up and allowing it to vaporize. Now, the property that makes it possible for this to happen is the boiling point and the molecular weight. Okay. Now, the fraction of crude oil can be categorized into two categories. Take note of this, please. We can categorize crude oil, the fractions, into two categories. You have the refined product and the petrochemical product. The refined product and the petrochemical product. The refined product are the products that contain individual hydrocarbons, as we have it as gasoline or what is that. Those are the refined products. Okay. While the petrochemical products, they contain one or more specific hydrocarbons, like a combination of more than one hydrocarbon. This was petrochemical products. An example is toluene. Another name for toluene is ethyl. You know, another example of that is ethylene. Ethylene, that the carbon having uh, two bonds in between carbon atom. Okay, that is CH4. Okay, that's ethylene for you. It has carbon bonds in between. That's a sigma bond and a pi bond. All right. Then this is the pictorial view of the video you're watching much earlier. Okay? This is what happens in crude oil refining. As you as the crude comes in, you have the vapor, the gasoline vapor or LPG. LPG is liquefied petroleum gas. That's a combination of butane and propane. That's what we use as our cooking gas. For instance. Now, you see them at the higher point of collection because they are much lighter. Okay. Now we also have naphtha, and then we have kerosene. A lot of us are very conversant with kerosene. All right. Yeah. Then after kerosene, the next component we have is diesel distillate. Then we have medium weight gas oil. and heavy gas oil, and we have the residual. Okay, now these fractions that we have, they can still be further broken down. Some heavier ones can be broken down into some lighter components, and some lighter components can also be combined to form lesser. Lighter components can also be combined to form a heavier component. It just depends on the demand in the market. Okay. Now the process of breaking down heavier components of or heavier fractions of crude oil into lighter fractions is known as cracking. All right. Uh, we have two types of cracking. We have thermal cracking and catalytic cracking. Thermal cracking and catalytic cracking. We'll come to that shortly. All right. Now, at the top of the distillation column and at the bottom of the distillation column, this is a tabular representation of what happens there. Short chain hydrocarbons are usually at the top. Then you have long chain hydrocarbons at the bottom. Another thing again, we have lighter molecules at the top. We have lower molecules at the bottom. This is just a tabular representation of what I explained earlier. You know, the ones that have lower boiling points, they are usually recovered at the top. The ones that have higher boiling points are recovered at the bottom. Then gases are very runny liquids also at the top. You know, gases are very light liquid, but the thick and viscous liquids are at the bottom. That just explains what we're talking about. Now, these are the fractions of crude oil and their properties. Remember, we said crude oil is made up of hydrocarbons. Now, depending on the number of carbon atoms, that's what will determine the kind of hydro or the kind of component that the crude oil. Two number of carbon atoms are usually the refinery gas, and those ones are recovered at about 30 degrees Celsius. They are very light. That's why you can see your gas can easily evaporate and even room temperature, which is around 30 degrees Celsius. Okay. Now the uses is also put in the tabular form. They are used as propane and butane, most of bottled gases that are used for cooking and for some other activities. They can be bottled. That's in your gas. They are the ones you find in your gas cylinder. They are the ones we use in cooking also. All right. Then we have when the gasoline are the hydrocarbon or the fractions that have 7 to 9 hydrocarbons. I'm sorry, 7 to 9 carbon atoms. I meant to say, and they are usually recovered at a boiling point of about 100 to 150 degrees Celsius. And what they are used for cars and engines. So you have a lot of them, and so on and so forth. That's going to make up part of your assignment. Um, I'm going to be giving you the full breakdown and also making research on other uses of this component of the fraction. All right. Now this is just a tutorial view again of what actually happens in the refinery. In our next class, laboratories, we'll be looking more critically at what happens inside the distillation column. And inside, how does this whole separation occur in the distillation column? We will look at it more critically in our next class. But before then, we need to talk about this. Look at the pictorial view of each of them. Like what I just explained earlier, the light gases, they are the ones in the bottles. The other one after them, that's where you have your premium motor spill or your PMS. So they are used for, that's the petrol, called petrol. That's what's used in our cars. Okay? Naphtha is used for chemicals, also for different chemicals. We use naphtha as an active ingredient. Kerosene is used for fuel. We have two types. We have DPK, and that's the dual purpose kerosene, which is for two uses rather. We have the that is used for cooking, that can be used for cooking in our stoves and the rest. And we also have the one that is used for flying the aircraft. Okay, it's called jet fuel. Okay, jet fuel, and it's recovered at 100 degrees Celsius. Okay. Um, Remember what I said? What differentiates these fractions is their boiling point and their molecular weight. Their boiling point and their what? Molecular weight. Now the chemical processing, the fractions of crude oil can undergo, like I was saying that much earlier, and they can undergo chemical processing to alter the structure or their properties. You understand that? So if you have smaller components, smaller chain hydrocarbons, we are combining them, for instance, we are going to have a larger component. So their structure will already be altered in so doing. Alright, the sort of chemical process employed depends largely on the market demand. I explained that earlier, that depending on the market demand, then we choose any of the processes for it to undergo. So cracking is one of the processes which I have explained to mean the combination of relatively simple or small hydrocarbon molecules to um, molecules that are when we get, sorry, I said cracking is the breaking down of larger hydrocarbon complex molecules to get smaller molecules. So when there are smaller molecules in the demand in the market, you know, you can break down those heavier products to form um, um, smaller components or lighter products which are in higher demand in the market. Okay, then coking is the process of breaking down bitumen. When it is bitumen in particular that is being broken down or cracked in quote, then that process is called coking, and it is done by a coker. That's what we use in conducting coking, using a coker. Now cracking in itself, we have two types of cracking. We have thermal cracking and catalytic cracking. All right. Another thermal cracking is where you make use of temperature in cracking, that's of heat in breaking down those large components. While catalytic cracking is when you make use of uh, catalyst in breaking down these components. Okay. Now another process is called alkylation. That's the process where the structure of the hydrocarbon molecules in one fraction is altered to produce another hydrocarbon molecule with another structure. Now, during alkylation, compounds with low molecular weight are usually mixed with in the presence of a catalyst, such as hydrofluoric acid, not hydrochloric, hydrofluoric, that's HF. You have HCl, they're conversant to that, but when it is fluorine, with the lighter elements of the same family with chlorine, hydrofluoric acid or sulfuric acid, that's the H2SO4. Those are examples of the catalysts that are usually used in isolation. We also have unification and the rest of it. Okay. We still have some other treatment processes for for crude oil. We have clay treatment, we have acid treatment, we have sulfur treatment. We also have um, a popular one where we try to sweeten uh, the crude by reducing the sulfur content. But that is usually very expensive and a risky or hazardous, highly hazardous process because of the poisonous nature of the sulfur content. Okay, so for today's class, we will hold it here, and we'll be I'll be giving you this assignment. Please, you can take a screenshot of the assignment. In our next class, I guess this will do deeper into this and talk more on some other areas This is just an introductory class of to do. The first of please take note of where you are sending the assignment to. You are going to be mailing it to engineer.jpts@gmail.com. I hope you can see this very clearly. Engineer.jpts@gmail.com, and make sure that the subject of your mail that you are sending is OGM 213 dash assignment 1 dash your center. Then you also put your name in the mail that you are going to send. Okay, so we'll make sure the subject is in this format. Okay, otherwise your mail will not be seen. Okay, the first question is for you to discuss on the fractional distillation of crude, or discuss on fractional distillation of crude oil in your own words. Discuss on the fractional distillation of crude oil. And number two is take in the tabular form the fractions of crude oil and their properties. Take in a tabular form the fractions of crude oil and their properties. Number one was discuss the fractional distillation of crude oil. Then number three, explain the following terms. Number one, cracking. Roman figure two, reforming. Roman figure three, poking. Roman figure four, acylation. Roman figure five, unification. Unification. Please, when writing your assignment, I don't want plagiarism. Plagiarism is when you just go online and pick a definition and you drop it hook, line, and everything the way it is. Just copy and paste. Neither do I want you to copy each other. Be able to define the effort in your own thing. Anybody that see copying or writing the same thing as any other person, so both of you could become penalized. So please ensure that you do your work yourself and not sharing your work with anybody. Okay. The other question is take and explain briefly the classification of crude oil. Take and explain briefly the classification of crude oil. Then next is what are the reasons for what are the reasons what are the reasons for upgrading of an oil refinery? This one I want you to read it ahead for the next class. Okay? And I'll do some research on it ahead for the next one. Discuss on the crude oil treatment process. Discuss on the crude oil treatment process. Discuss on the crude oil treatment process. Again, this is where you're going to be submitting it to engineering.jpts@gmail.com, and make sure the subject of your mail is ODM 213 dash assignment dash your center, the name of your center. If it is Togo, or if it is Kafanchan, or if it is Sokoto, wherever it is in Sokoto, you put the name of your center, that's the name and the state, name of center, and city, so you can trace that. Please ensure you comply. In this period of the pandemic, ensure you stay safe, ensure you practice good hygiene, wash your hands properly, avoid surfaces, make use of um, sanitizer. Also, make sure you go around with the nose mask, avoid crowded areas, and remember to stay very safe. God bless you all. I'll see you in the next. one. Thank you. 1, 2, 5.